Once a bustling city of over 500,000 people has now turned into a ghost town. Relentless bombardment by Russian forces has destroyed the port city of Mariupol. India Today's Geeta Mohan visited the port city of Mariupol only to understand that the city now lies in shambles. Here's more.
Mariupol, a city under siege. Once home to 500,000 people, it now resembles a ghost town. Russian forces have been pounding the city that could provide them the much-needed bridge between Donbas and Crimea, the two regions controlled by them in eastern Ukraine. India Today entered Mariupol to get the world's first independent account from inside the city.
We are here on the way to Mariupol, a bridge that was blown apart by the Ukrainian side to ensure that the Russian side does not enter Mariupol. So a huge disastrous scene over here. We've seen many of these bridges that were blown up by the Ukrainian side to ensure that Russian advances are stopped. So another bridge over here. We're on our way to Mariupol, but this is what the scenes look like in terms of infrastructure that have been destroyed from the other side to ensure that Mariupol is not taken, a strategic city for both Ukraine and for Russia.
What India Today saw was a city in complete shambles. Residential areas, schools, hospitals, they've all suffered damage. Under siege, Mariupol is also running out of water and food supplies. With no electricity and connectivity, people of the city are living their worst nightmare.
Уехать невозможно, потому что нет денег, и мы не знаем куда.
So first goal is he have no money. He have money on bank account, but banks doesn't work. He cannot take cash. And that's why he afraid to go anywhere without money. And also things he's showing that there is no water, so they can even wash themselves.
So that's why he's showing his hands, that there's no water to...
Yes, he said all of people now in city have such a hands because there's no water to clean yourself. They're bringing water so you can...
Humanitarian aid is finding it difficult to get into the city and reach the needy.
Lot of massive destruction. You can see Ukrainian trucks that were destroyed on the 16th of March, and the destruction continues. The buildings over here completely in a shambles, destroyed. The city is under siege, but this is a port city. It is a city that is crucial. It is one of the most important battles for Russia as well. Mariupol sits right between Crimea and Donetsk. If this is captured fully, this is one of the biggest wins for Putin. This will be one of the biggest wins for Putin if Mariupol is under Russian control.
With many roads inaccessible due to mines and burnt-out military equipment.
Боялись буквально выезжать отсюда. А сейчас, по сути, и ехать особо некуда даже, если вдуматься.
So they were afraid to escape of the city because they didn't have information. They didn't know where is danger or where is not. So they were afraid to get to a place where the place worse than here. So that's why they decided to be here. And now, for the moment, they suppose that to stay here is also more safe than to go somewhere. It's because they don't have information.
While the living are suffering, the dead are denied basic dignity. Graveyards are inaccessible and people are burying their departed loved ones in their neighborhoods itself.
A city under siege where people have not been able to escape. Loss of lives innumerable. So much so that the heartbreaking story of graves being dug for their loved ones in the very same colony where they're living, just beside the building which houses them, people are now burying their loved ones. That's how difficult life here in Mariupol is for people who either decided to stay back or have not managed to flee the city of Mariupol.
Many parts of the port city are now under Russian control. Mariupol is where Ukraine's Azov battalion is giving Russians a tough fight.
It's Ukrainian military truck that was destroyed by our artillery 16 March at night. Ukrainian soldiers drop the Vinnytsia and go to the Azovstal.
Right. So how much of the Mariupol area is now under Russian control?
At 60-70% of Mariupol now at control of military of Donetsk People Republic and Russian forces.
Nearly 140,000 civilians have managed to escape from besieged Mariupol. Another 170,000 are still trapped, hoping and praying that this war ends soon.
A city under siege. 2 days ago, President Zelensky admitted that there is no way to keep control of Mariupol. Today, Mariupol is maximum under Russian control. President Zelensky had wanted jets and tanks from the West, from NATO. But now, Russia put all its force to ensure that this critical city comes under their control. There were 4 lakh people when the entire operation from the Russian side began on the 24th of February, and now there are less than 1 lakh people. The state of affairs of people living, who continue to live in Mariupol, is absolutely in a very, very bad shape. Their life destroyed, and the city will take a long time to be rebuilt. With journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Parts of the Donetsk region are witnessing fierce fights. India Today is also en route, one of the areas, Gorlovka, that is on the northern front of Donetsk, where the battle is currently underway. On the way to Gorlovka, India Today's Geeta Mohan found a Russian tank that was attacked by the Ukrainian forces. She sent us this report.
Amid massive shelling and bombardment over here, we found this tank, a Russian tank that was hit by the Ukrainian side. We are in one of the undisclosed locations where these tanks are being brought in. They will be repaired, is what officials and officers over here are saying, and then sent back to the front. So massive damage being caused by both sides, the Ukrainian forces as also the Russian side, when it comes to the war that is underway between Russia and Ukraine. One such tank over here, but there are many that come for repair over here, and then once repaired, they send back to the front line. With British journalist Satya Rautre, on the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, as talks between Russia and Ukraine delegation are expected to resume today, Ukrainian President Zelensky is wary of Russia's peace pledge. Zelensky says that signals from the peace talks are positive, but these signals do not silence the explosion of Russian shells. We see no reason to trust the words of certain representatives of a state that continues to fight for our destruction. He's also added that Ukrainians are not naive. They have already learned during these last 35 days of invasion and over the last 8 years of the war in Donbass that only a concrete result can be trusted. US President Joe Biden has struck the same tune and said that we'll see if Russia followed through with what they were suggesting. We're going to keep a close eye. There are signs of a breakthrough after delegates from Russia and Ukraine met in Turkey's Istanbul to negotiate an end to the month-long war. Ukrainian negotiators have said a meeting between President Volodymyr Zelensky and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin may soon materialize.
"34 days of bloodshed later, first signs of a thaw." After several unsuccessful rounds of talks between Russia and Ukraine, the two countries have finally made some significant headway in their latest negotiations in Istanbul. Russia has promised to scale down attacks on Ukraine. In a significant concession by Moscow, the Russian military will also cut back military operations in capital city Kyiv and the northern city of Chernihiv. Movement of some Russian troops away from Kyiv is confirmed, but should be viewed only as redeployment, an anonymous US official has told news agency Reuters. The first act of de-escalation by Russia is aimed at increasing trust in talks aimed at ending the conflict.
Due to the fact that the talks about the Treaty on Neutrality and nuclear-free status of Ukraine and on providing security guarantees for Ukraine are moving to a practical phase, and taking into account all the principles discussed today, Russian Defense Ministry, in order to increase mutual trust and create the necessary conditions for further negotiations.
Исходим от того, что в Киеве будут приняты соответствующие.
Ukrainian negotiators have proposed the country is open to adopting neutral status in exchange for international security guarantees. This would mean Kyiv would not join military alliances or host military bases. The negotiators say a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin may happen if the talks in Istanbul are fruitful.
After today's meaningful discussion, we reached an agreement and proposed that the head of states would meet at the time of initiating the treaty by the foreign ministers, especially because at the time of initiating and confirming details of the treaty, it might be necessary to agree some political nuances and details.
І тільки саме з цим договором ми можемо закінчити війну так, як це потрібно.
Intensive consultations are underway right now, and some important issues, the most important of which is agreement on international security guarantee for Ukraine, because this agreement will be able to end the war as Ukraine needs.
І зараз про це якраз іде розмова.
The latest rounds of talks were held at Istanbul's Dolmabahce Palace and the adjacent Shangri-La Hotel. As talks went on, the first sign of some progress came from a tweet by the advisor of Zelensky. The tweet listed his country's concerns like ceasefire, humanitarian corridors that were being discussed. Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich and Ukrainian MP Rustam Umerov, who were victims of poisoning in an earlier round of talks, were also involved in the latest dialogue hosted by Istanbul. After more than a month of destruction, diplomacy could broker a breakthrough that puts an end to the suffering of millions. Bureau Report, India Today.
After 35 days of fighting an intense war, Russia is reassessing its war goals. Moscow has started shifting its troops from the capital of Kyiv and Chernihiv to eastern Ukraine. Russia says it will now focus completely on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbas region, while Ukraine compromises Donbas for peace. That's the big question. Here's more.
After a month of intense fighting, losing hundreds of soldiers, facing global sanctions, Russia is reassessing its goals. Moscow has started withdrawing its troops partially from the area around the capital city of Kyiv and Chernihiv. Ukraine's military claims Russia is shifting their troops to the eastern front. The move comes after Moscow said it would now focus completely on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbas region.
Считаем безответственной позицию Запада.
The main objective of the first phase of the operation have largely been achieved.
Strategically, the Donbas region is very important to Moscow. Ukraine's Luhansk and Donetsk jointly make up the Donbas region along with the Russian border. Controlling Donbas means domination over the Sea of Azov. It would also help Putin to extend Moscow's domination over Crimea, which Moscow annexed back in 2014. But the big reason why Russia wants to focus more on Donbas could be the reverses suffered in Ukraine. The Russian forces haven't been able to achieve their objectives as swiftly as expected because of stiff resistance. Donbas could be Putin's way out of the Ukraine quagmire without admitting defeat. Right before launching the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Putin had recognized the two breakaway regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, as independent states. The self-declared republics are not recognized by any governments other than Moscow and its close ally Syria. Ukraine claims 93% of Luhansk and 54% of Donetsk is controlled by rebels now. Any truce between Russia and Ukraine would hinge on some give and take around Donbas. Bureau Report, India Today.